General Mejia, great to see you again, sir. Congratulations. General Santos de Granada, thank you for your cooperation with this great nation. General DeSalvo, thank you, sir, for continuing with your leadership down the Southern Command. And fellow officers, fellow warriors, it is an honor to be with you here today. I'd first like to thank General Pineda for giving me the opportunity to address this group. What I think is a eventual evolution in your military force. It's an honor to join you and share this historic time for your country. Not only is this a time where we celebrate the birthday of your Army, but it is also the first time, because of your efforts, in 50 years that your people have known peace. That's pretty incredible. I want to talk to you a little about some concepts that we use in the United States that allow us to preserve military capability while saving costs and bringing about some other changes. During a time when our nation was divided and we were struggling to unify our citizens, the time that we call our Civil War, our President Abraham Lincoln stated in his 1863 speech at Gettysburg that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from this earth. This statement reminds us that a nation must fight to preserve its freedoms. When you ask any of our soldiers, whether they be U.S. soldiers or Colombian soldiers, why they serve their country, their answer is largely due to the fact that they want a better future for their families and their nations. Your actions represents Lincoln's words very, very well. While the military preserves the rights of the people, and this is my opinion, but I think it's borne out in history, we must remember that the strength of the democracy is the will of the people of that country. We may have the strongest military in the world, but if we do not have the support of the people, we cannot survive. We have learned that lesson many times in the United States. That support comes from our citizens understanding the situation to include the threat and the solutions. And it also comes from them being connected both intellectually and emotionally to the military. We find in the United States, and I'm sure you do too, that our citizens may at times have unique or conflicting priorities, but they will always unite behind the cause that they believe is right. Nowhere in this is this union more evident than here in Colombia, where the people and the military have worked together for the last 50 years to bring peace. You think about your integration into the communities where your fine military works every day. Your Colombian military represents the struggle and the tremendous sacrifices that have brought you to this place in history. As Colombia looks forward to having peace in the Republic, your service members will be looked upon by your citizens as a force for democracy that instills hope and faith in the cause. As a military, you know you have to remain ready and strong. But as peace sets in, our civilian memories will start to fade. Your politicians may have other priorities. Probably one of their main priorities will be to save money, and rightfully so. It is part of their job to shift priorities. With this focus, there will be a tremendous temptation to greatly reduce your members in the military. In the United States, when we have a time of peace, we normally reduce our military too. And we always reduce it too much. In doing that, we encourage our potential adversaries to challenge us. Today, we take a little bit different approach. We're offsetting this risk by maintaining a highly capable and well-equipped reserve force. This reserve force not only provides a strong military capability at a quarter of the price of active forces, but it is structured to maintain a tie with our citizens, provide assistance in disasters, maintain partnerships with other militaries, and fight our nation's war with a very short training. This reserve force lives and works in our communities and is responsive to our local governments, specifically our governors. Its training and equipping is paid for by the federal government. When it is used by the state for disaster relief or other approved purposes, the state reimburses the federal government for that use. You may choose to strengthen your reserve forces and reduce your active forces in the future. If you do, I encourage you to structure your reserve forces to be a maximum advantage for your country. It must be a capable fighting force. It cannot be second-rate. The professionalism in the ranks cannot change from active duty to reserve. Our reserves are held to the same standards as our active forces, and we use the exact same equipment. In fact, it is sometimes our reserve forces get this new equipment before our active forces do, based on their upcoming missions. We are completely interchangeable at war. We have proven this over the last 15 years of war. As a reserve commander, I commanded a task force of over 10,000 people in Afghanistan that included active and reserve members from all 4 services and from 17 other countries. The only difference between our active and reserve is the time it takes to bring large units into action. Many of our company-size elements are available immediately, while combined arms at the brigade level may take 60 days. We train at home and overseas with active forces. Our training is at least 1 weekend a month and 2 continuous weeks during the year. At least that's what we advertise. It's been a lot more lately. Our priority units train much more. And to give you an example, today, my Black Hawks are in Afghanistan. My Signal Brigade is in Afghanistan. My sister brigade to the north in North Carolina has command of the Kosovo, the U.S. Kosovo mission. I have my F-16 fighter wing in Korea. My 263rd Army and Air Missile Defense Command is responsible for all of the ground-based air defense in the entire North America, and they coordinate with Europe and Korea. My bridging and combat units just finished a major portion of the NATO exercise in Romania, and all of that is in the last month, and those are our reserve forces. The reserves does not only save money, but it also provides other advantages. As the peace process continues, your call to action to fight will be reduced. However, natural disasters, external threats, and even the possibility of a reemergent internal threat will continue to exist. Since your day-to-day role may be reduced, you may struggle to remain relevant. The key component to relevancy is that the population has to see the benefit of a strong military and how it is integrated into the community and how it safeguards the homeland. There will be a temptation to consolidate to save money and to withdraw into large military complexes to pull out of the community. Today, you are integrated into communities because you fight there to protect the citizens. Withdrawing will greatly degrade the military tie and the government's tie to the people. A distributed reserve, not only stationed in those communities, but living there and employed as civilians, create a lasting bond. Allowing this reserve component to be responsive to local needs and priorities will strengthen already existing trust and partnerships. There are threats among us all, more evident day to day, with terrorists and external organizations and countries who plot to do us harm. Natural disasters provide enough problems to keep everyone busy. By staying engaged with your citizens, your service members can maintain that sense of purpose while continuing to communicate the importance of projecting yourselves as a national power. Due to threats and uncertainties in today's global environment, having partnerships and influence is key. Just as the Colombian government needs to stay connected with other regions of the world, the Colombian military needs to stay connected with the people of Colombia and other regions of the world. Just as your country does not want to be isolated, your military cannot be isolated. Part of our tie and our work to the community is our diversity. If we just fight wars, common sense says that we should be reduced when there's no war to fight. But that puts us at great risk for future conflicts. If we use our fighting abilities, as you do, to assist with recovery from disasters in our own nation and our neighbors, we can increase our relevancy and decrease human suffering. Diverse capabilities do not come only from our ability to use warfighting training and equipment for recovery purposes. It comes from a mindset. Disaster relief is a response to local needs as determined by local politicians. In South Carolina, recent floods in October of 2015, we used our construction capabilities to restore roads and levees, our maneuver capability to support local police, our water purification capabilities to avoid having to evacuate hospitals, and our aviation and ground movement capabilities to rescue well over 200 people and move people and material to where they need to be stationed. All of these actions came under the direction of our governor and our local governors. Not only are our citizen soldiers or reservists tied to the community and local government, but we also bring special skills to the fight. The reserve soldier brings additional skills for his civilian career that add unique value to his military job. We have military lawyers, in fact some of them are down here today, who are judges in the community. We have military police who are civilian policemen. We have pilots who fly commercial airlines and fly F-16 jets or helicopters while at drill. We have bankers, lawyers, construction workers, and even politicians and business owners. It doesn't get any more diverse than this. Normally, government officials, when they think of projecting national power, they think of diplomatic, informational, military, and economic. And when they think of the military, they think only of military power. In reality, our military, because of their special capabilities and ability to access difficult areas, all elements of power, especially diplomacy. Because militaries have so much in common, and military people can endure extreme hardships, many of our great diplomatic gains have come through the use of our military as ambassadors. The State Partnership Program is an example of one of our outreaches from the United States. We are honored and proud as South Carolinians and members of the South Carolina National Guard to be your partner since 2012. Our citizen soldiers are uniquely able to engage at all levels. You can imagine how these fine military members can also drive economic advice to our allies too. And we found this in Afghanistan and Iraq, where we were rebuilding economies. Being from all walks of life, they can bring the good qualities, other good qualities of America, as well as a military presence.
As a reserve force of our military, in the United States, we look at ourselves as supporting three defined roles. To support the warfighter, and we are the nation's reserve. We are held to the same standards. We defend the homeland, and we build and sustain partnerships around the world. You must maintain that warrior ethos that you begin transformation from an army engaged in combat in your country to become an army ready to promote democracy and support your citizens. While Colombia is on a path to peace, forces around the world will continue to plot against all of us, and we need to be ready. Our National Guard and Reserve components are rooted in the communities where they work and live. We are held to the same rigorous standards and readiness and receive exactly the same training as our active duty counterparts. There is no difference on the battlefield, nor when we train together as a joint force. When our Guard and Reserve forces deploy, they deploy as members of their hometowns and communities, and the communities in turn deploy with them. And that is key for the United States. Our nation must know when it's at war. We have seen this connection in our deployment and homecoming ceremonies when our volunteer groups, churches, and communities turn out to support their hometown heroes. The Abrams Doctrine, formed after Vietnam by the U.S. Army, by General Creighton Abrams, the Army Chief of Staff at the time, says that we will never go to war again without our reserve. It means we will never go to war again without our communities. It recognizes the importance of the will of the American people. I've been speaking to you so far as a military leader and the Adjutant General for the state of South Carolina. I'd like to shift a little bit and talk to you now in another capacity, and that would be my first-hand knowledge of the unique and capable forces of the Reserve. While I'm Major General Bob Livingston, the leader of men and women of the South Carolina National Guard, and a former brigade commander in combat, I am also Bob Livingston, President and CEO of Gregory Electric Company, a business that has existed for over 50 years, actually 60 years. I've been involved over 30 years and employs over 350 people. Although today I serve as the full-time head of the military department, most of my time has been as a citizen soldier. I held a full-time job in my community. I trained 1 or 2 or 3 weekends a month, 2 or 3 weeks in the summer. I responded to floods in Ecuador and rebuilt roads. I conducted training exercises, combat exercises in Turkey. I responded to civil unrest and natural disasters at home. I conducted combat operations in Afghanistan. When I was a young captain and working for an electric company in 1989, my unit was called to respond to the largest natural disasters that South Carolina had faced in centuries, Hurricane Hugo, a Category 4 hurricane that hit one of our most populated areas of South Carolina. My military engineers and I partnered with the local companies, and through networks that I had established as a business owner and as a military commander, we restored power and access to the coast in record time. When our politicians were talking in terms of months, we restored it in terms of weeks. But it was through cooperation between our military capabilities and our civilian needs to improve bridging assets. Through all of that, I was able to continue my role as husband, father, business owner, and employer while proudly serving my state and nation. All of my military duties include schools, exercise, and employment according to Army standards. And my story is not unique. My story today is repeated over 800,000 times with our reserve members. and it represents over 850,000 combat deployments in the last 10 years. As an employer, I share with other employers the love of our military. That love does not come by accident. It comes through an education process. As reservists every day demonstrate to our employers the great benefits of our military, they also bring their military skills to business. We help employers understand that military members make tremendous employees. And this is going to be key as you are having to downsize your military and place people in civilian employment. Military members are disciplined, fit, and understand how to execute orders. They serve something bigger than themselves and are held to a higher standard. And oh, by the way, in our country, they also have to be drug and crime-free, as they are in your country. That's a hard thing for our employers to find. Today, our citizen soldier in South Carolina has an unemployment rate of less than 2.5%. That compares with a civilian unemployment rate of about 5.5%. Our employers understand the value that our reservists bring. We also have been able to extend that goodwill to all of our veterans, not just members of the reserve forces, and our veteran rate, unemployment rate, is below 3.5%. That connection to the community and our employers not only benefits the reserve forces, but it benefits all forces. We accomplish all of this through employee groups, open house events, boss lists, and just bringing our employers into our military organizations and allowing them to see what we do in our second job. I would be remiss if I did not take a moment to recognize a key component in the sacrifice and success of all of our lives. That is our families. My wife, Barbara, has met with the spouses here in Colombia and shared what it takes to be a resilient family in South Carolina, and has taken away the amazing resilience of your military members and your families. We often say if things are running smooth at home, a service member can better focus on the mission. When you're at home, as I'm sure you do, take time to thank your loved one, hold your children close, and remember that it is for their futures that we do what we do. You have so much to be proud of, and the South Carolina soldiers and airmen are honored to be with you as you transform this incredible military. Thank you for your efforts in this hemisphere. Thank you for your efforts with us dating all the way back to Korea. Thank you for your future. May God continue to bless both of our countries and our great militaries. It's great to be with you. Thank you.